Married to the most feared millionaire, she braced for darkness, but he loved only her. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain in Aurelia City never softened for anyone, especially not for a woman like Aurora Vale, who had just lost the last piece of her family. But tonight, the storm didn't frighten her. The man waiting for her in the black car did. Damian Blackwell, youngest heir of the Blackwell dynasty, the most feared millionaire in the city, a man whose name alone made boardrooms fall silent. People whispered that marrying him was no different from walking into a golden prison. Some said his previous fiancée disappeared without a trace. Others swore he didn't love, didn't feel, didn't trust. And yet here Aurora stood, drenched on the hospital steps, clutching the single contract that could save her brother's life. Damian didn't need a wife. He needed a shield, someone silent enough to survive beside him. She told herself she wasn't afraid. But when he opened the car door and said, "Get in, the contract starts tonight," Aurora realized something far more terrifying. This wasn't the darkness she braced for. This was a man capable of destroying her and loving her. She slid into the car, raindrops rolling off her clothes onto the expensive leather seats. The door shut behind her with a heavy sound that felt like a lock sealing her fate. Damian sat across from her, the dim interior lights catching the sharp lines of his face, controlled, unreadable. "You're late," he said quietly, not raising his voice because he didn't need to. Aurora clasped her trembling fingers together. My landlord threw me out tonight. I had to bring some things to the hospital." Damian didn't look surprised. His gaze dipped to the small bag by her feet. "Everything you own fits in that." She didn't answer. Answering would mean admitting how far she'd fallen. The car pulled away from the curb, leaving the hospital lights behind. Aurora's chest tightened as she thought about Elias, her brother hooked up to machines, the doctors threatening to stop treatment if she couldn't pay by tomorrow. Her throat burned. "You read the contract," Damian said. "Do you accept every term?" Aurora swallowed. "Yes. No lying, no running, no interfering with my business." He watched her carefully. "And no asking about my past. I understand. Do you?" His voice was soft but dangerous. "Most people say they understand right before they break." Aurora forced herself to meet his eyes. "I don't have the luxury of breaking." Something flickered in his expression, interest or maybe curiosity, but it vanished before she could name it. They drove through the wealthy district of Aurelia City, passing glittering high-rises and restaurants filled with people who'd never know what desperation tasted like. Aurora pressed her palms against her knees to keep them steady. Damian finally spoke again. "Why did you come?" She hesitated. "Because I don't want my brother to die." A long silence stretched in the car. "That," Damian said at last, "is the only answer I'll accept." The car stopped at a red light. Rain streaked down the windows, distorting the city's neon glow. Damian reached into a briefcase and slid a folder across the seat toward her. "Blackwell Medical will begin full treatment for Elias tomorrow morning," he said. "We've already transferred him to a private wing." Aurora's breath hitched. "Already, but I haven't. The contract is binding the moment you stepped into my car." Her vision blurred with sudden tears she didn't dare let fall. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me," he replied, leaning back. "This isn't kindness." She nodded, gripping the folder to keep herself grounded. "I know. It's an exchange." "Good." His eyes held hers. "As long as you remember that you'll survive." Survive. The word shouldn't have sounded like a warning, but it did. The car turned into the long private road leading toward Blackwell Manor, its silhouette rising like a fortress against the storm. Aurora felt the weight of every secret rumor she'd ever heard, hidden wings guards stationed at all hours, and an owner who never let anyone close. When the vehicle stopped beneath the grand entrance, Damian stepped out first. He looked back at her, his hand extended, not kindly, not warmly, just inevitably. "Come, this is where you live now." Aurora stepped into the rain again, following him beneath the archway. The mansion doors opened automatically, revealing a warm foyer lit by crystal chandeliers. It felt unreal, like she'd stepped into someone else's life. Damian didn't pause. "Your room is on the east wing. You will move to mine when I say so." Aurora stiffened. Is that part of the contract?" He turned slightly, studying her reaction. "Everything is part of the contract." Her heart thudded hard, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. "I understand. You keep saying that," Damian murmured, stepping closer until she felt the heat of him. "We'll see if it remains true." Her pulse raced, but she held her ground. Finally, he stepped back. "From this moment on, Aurora Vale, you are my wife." The words echoed through the grand foyer, heavy and irreversible. Aurora stood there, soaked, overwhelmed, terrified, and yet somehow more determined than she'd ever been. Damian brushed past her, heading up the marble staircase. "Rest. Tomorrow you meet the rest of the Blackwell family." As Aurora followed a maid toward the east wing, she glanced back and caught Damian looking at her from the landing above, eyes unreadable, but not empty. Maybe she thought this wasn't a story about surviving him. Maybe this was the beginning of something neither of them expected, and that thought frightened her most of all. Aurora barely slept. The storm had passed, but something heavier clung to the air inside Blackwell Manor. Anticipation, tension, the sense that every step she took was being watched. When the maid knocked to wake her shortly after sunrise, Aurora was already sitting upright, staring at the unfamiliar luxury of the room she now lived in. "Mrs. Blackwell," the maid said carefully, still adjusting to the title. "Mer Blackwell requests your presence for breakfast." Aurora felt her pulse jump. She washed up, brushed through her damp hair, and followed the maid through long marble hallways decorated with cold, elegant precision. The entire manor felt like it was designed to keep people distant. When she entered the dining room, Damian was already seated at the head of the long table, scrolling through documents on a sleek tablet. He didn't look up when she approached. "Sit," he said simply. Aurora sat across from him, unsure if she should speak. The silence stretched, broken only when a servant placed a cup of tea in front of her. She wrapped her hands around it for warmth. Damian finally glanced up. "You'll be meeting my mother today." Aurora almost spilled her tea. "So soon she knows about the marriage," he said, voice cool. "She will want to evaluate you." The way he chose that word made Aurora's stomach tighten. "Evaluate my mother as the chairwoman of the Blackwell Foundation. She controls half of this family's alliances. She will judge whether you're a threat." Aurora swallowed hard. "Should I be nervous?" "You should be honest," Damian replied. "She can spot a lie faster than I can." Aurora lifted her eyes to him. "And can you," instead of answering his gaze, lingered on her for a moment longer than seemed necessary. "Finish your tea. We leave in 5 minutes." When they stepped outside, a black chauffeured car waited at the base of the entrance steps. Damian offered no explanation, no comfort, not even a glance as the car pulled out of the gates and into the city. Aurora watched the buildings pass by, her anxiety gnawing at her ribs. "Damian," she said quietly, "your mother. Does she know why I'm here? She knows enough. And what does she think about us?" He folded his hands loosely. "My mother doesn't care about romance. She cares about strategy." Aurora exhaled shakily. "Then I hope I'm a good strategy." Damian turned his head slightly toward her. "You were the only strategy." The car stopped in front of a glass skyscraper, the Blackwell Foundation headquarters. The building was polished, pristine, intimidating. Aurora followed Damian through a lobby filled with employees who all lowered their heads when he walked past. They took the elevator to the top floor. The doors opened into an office overlooking Aurelia City. A woman stood by the window, elegant in a dark tailored dress, hair swept into a flawless twist. Seraphine Blackwell. Her presence was sharp enough to silence the entire room. "Aurora," she said without turning. "Come forward." Aurora stepped beside her, feeling small against the towering windows. Seraphine finally faced her eyes, the same cold silver as Damian's. "So," Seraphine said, "you are the girl Damian chose." Aurora felt Damian shift slightly behind her, but Seraphine's attention stayed fixed on Aurora. "I understand your family's situation," Seraphine continued. "Your father's company was destroyed by a forged partnership contract. Your brother is ill. Your name has been dragged through the mud." She paused. "Tragedy clings to you." Aurora forced her voice to remain steady. I didn't ask for any of it. I'm just trying to survive. And you believe marrying my son will help you survive? Aurora hesitated. I believe he's the only person who gave me a choice. Damian's gaze flickered, but Seraphine did not react. You're honest, Seraphine said. Good. Then let me be honest too. She stepped closer. Damian does not trust easily. He does not choose easily. The last person he brought close left him, wounded. Aurora's breath caught. I'm not here to hurt him. Seraphine studied her for several long seconds. I see that. Then unexpectedly, Seraphine turned toward Damian. She's fragile, she said. Aurora stiffened, but Damian's voice was immediate and cool. She's stronger than she looks. Seraphine's brows lifted. So you have decided. I have. Seraphine stepped back, expression unreadable. Then the foundation will support this marriage. But Aurora understands something clearly. Being a Blackwell is not a title. It is a battlefield. If you plan to stay in this family, you must learn to stand without shaking. Aurora straightened her shoulders. Then I'll learn. Seraphine gave a slow nod. Good. Damian, stay behind. Aurora, your escort will take you downstairs. Aurora cast a brief look at Damian. He gave her a small gesture, barely noticeable, but reassuring enough that she followed the escort out. Downstairs, waiting in the lobby, stood a young man she'd never seen before. He wore glasses, carried a tablet, and smiled nervously. You must be Mrs. Blackwell, he said, cheeks slightly flushed. I'm Lucas. Mr. Blackwell assigned me to assist you with anything you need today. Aurora blinked. Assist me, his smile widened shyly. I'm kind of his right hand, but don't tell him I said that. Aurora found herself smiling for the first time all morning. As Lucas guided her to the car, Aurora finally exhaled. Meeting Seraphine had been terrifying, but somehow she had survived it, maybe even passed it. When Damian joined her in the car minutes later, Aurora quietly asked, was she harsh? She was herself, he said. And she approved. Aurora's chest loosened. Does that matter to you? Damian glanced at her. More than you think. They rode back to the manor in silence, but it wasn't the same silence as before. Something had shifted, something unspoken but real. For the first time, Aurora allowed herself to wonder. Maybe she didn't just sign a contract. Maybe she stepped into something far more dangerous, far more intimate, and maybe she wasn't entirely afraid of it anymore. Aurora was trimming the last loose thread on her blouse when a soft knock sounded at her bedroom door. She looked up to see Lucas standing there, tablet in hand, and an apologetic smile on his face. Mrs. Blackwell, he said cautiously. Mr. Blackwell asked me to escort you to his office. He wants a word. Aurora's stomach tightened. Damian rarely asked, he commanded. Whatever this was, it felt important. She followed Lucas through a long hallway lined with oil paintings and gilded sconces, the manor as quiet as a cathedral. He's in a mood today, Lucas whispered as they approached the east wing. Just be honest. He hates guessing. Aurora nodded, her heartbeat thrumming as Lucas opened the heavy door. Damian stood behind an enormous desk of black marble sleeves, rolled up tie abandoned on the chair, his expression dark with focus. Papers were scattered around him, financial reports, contracts, emails. He barely glanced up as she entered. Sit, he said. Aurora sat on the edge of the leather chair opposite him, hands clasped in her lap. You wanted to see me. He set down a document and looked at her fully for the first time. There was intensity in his eyes, but also something sharper scrutiny. You met my mother yesterday, he said, and you handled her better than most seasoned investors. I didn't expect that. Aurora blinked. I just told her the truth. Most people don't, he replied. Not to her, not to me. His gaze lingered as if waiting for her to flinch. She didn't. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. There's something I need from you. Aurora felt her breath hitch. Something more. His eyes flickered with amusement. No, not that. Damian pushed a folder toward her. She opened it and immediately recognized the name on the header, Coin Industries. Her pulse stuttered. Marcus Hale. Damian's jaw tightened. I need you to tell me everything you know about him. Aurora hesitated. I barely know him. He was my father's business partner. Or, I thought he was. He forged the documents that destroyed Vale Industries, Damian said. He used your father, then abandoned him. Now he's planning something against Blackwell Corp. too. You're the closest link we have to understanding his patterns. Aurora's mouth went dry. What do you want me to do? Tell me how he approached your father, what promises he made, any behavior that seemed strategic. Aurora swallowed hard. Memories she'd tried to bury clawed their way back, late-night arguments, her father pacing the living room with shaking hands, Marcus showing up with fake smiles and grand proposals. He told my father he could save the company, she said. He said the Blackwells were preparing to buy out smaller investors, and partnering with him would protect us. Damian's eyes narrowed. I never made such a move. I know, Aurora whispered, but my father didn't. There was a long silence, Damian's jaw clenched, knuckles whitening against the desk. He used your father to get to me, he said quietly. Marcus has always hated the Blackwells. I didn't think he would go this far. Aurora's voice softened. He ruined us, Damian. He ruined my father, my brother, everything. And now he thinks he can use you again, Damian said darkly. Aurora flinched. Use me how? Damian didn't answer. Instead, he stood abruptly and came around the desk, stopping just inches from her. She felt the heat of him, the weight of his intensity. You're under protection now, he said. Nobody gets near you. Nobody contacts you. If Marcus tries anything at all, you tell me immediately. Aurora nodded, breath caught in her throat. Damian studied her expression, and something in his gaze softened. You're trembling. I'm not used to being protected, she admitted. Damian's voice lowered. Get used to it. Before she could respond, there was a knock. Lucas peeked inside nervously. Sir, there's been a development. The media caught wind of your marriage. They're waiting outside the gates. Damian's expression darkened. Who leaked it? We don't know yet. Double security around the perimeter, Damian ordered. And bring the car around. Lucas nodded and vanished. Aurora stood slowly. Are you taking me somewhere? Damian grabbed his coat from the back of the chair. To the Helios Gala. Aurora blinked. The charity gala. Tonight. You're my wife now, Damian said. People will expect to see you. And if Marcus leaked the marriage, he'll be there too. Aurora stiffened. You want me to confront him? No, Damian said, meeting her gaze. I want him to see that you're mine. Her heart thudded painfully. Damian. He stepped closer, again his voice low. Did you think this marriage meant nothing to me? Did you think I would let the man who destroyed your family come within 10 feet of you? Aurora's breath trembled. Why does it matter? For a moment, just a fraction of a heartbeat, Damian looked like he might say something real, something vulnerable. Instead, he reached for her wrist gently but with command. Because you're in this family now, he said, and no one touches what's mine. Aurora's pulse raced as he let go. The next hour blurred makeup artists, arriving stylists dressing her in a midnight blue gown, Lucas pacing anxiously as Damian got ready. When Aurora finally stepped into the grand entrance hall, Damian froze mid-conversation. His eyes swept over her slowly, darkening with something she didn't expect, admiration. Aurora, he said quietly, stay close to me tonight. She nodded, unable to speak. As they stepped outside and the cameras exploded in flashes, Aurora slipped her hand into the crook of Damian's arm. His muscles tensed, then relaxed as if her touch steadied him. Tonight she would face the world as Damian Blackwell's wife. And somewhere inside her chest, fear and something dangerously close to anticipation twisted together. For the first time, she wondered not what she had stepped into, but what this man might eventually become to her. The lights of the Helios Gala shimmered like a field of stars as Aurora stepped out of the car. Cameras flashed, instantly capturing her every breath. Damian's hand settled on the small of her back, firm and grounding, guiding her through the sea of reporters without a word. He moved with the cold confidence of a man who had spent his entire life under scrutiny. Inside, the ballroom glowed gold, filled with Aurelia City's elite politicians, CEOs, socialites draped in diamonds. Conversations dipped as people turned to stare. Aurora felt their eyes like needles against her skin. Just breathe, Damian murmured, leaning close without touching her more than necessary. They're only vultures. Vultures pick bones, but they don't bite the living. That's comforting, she whispered nervously. He smirked just barely. It's the best you'll get tonight. They barely reached the center of the room before a deep voice called out, Damian Blackwell, and this must be the mysterious bride. A man stepped forward in a tailored gray suit, his smile too polished to be genuine. His blue eyes appraised Aurora with a flicker of curiosity. Damian tensed beside her. Gideon Ward, he said curtly. I didn't realize you were back in the city. Business called me home. Gideon's gaze lingered on Aurora. And who might this be? Damian placed a deliberate hand around her waist. My wife. Gideon raised a brow. You didn't strike me as the marrying type. People change, Damian said flatly. Aurora sensed the tension thickening between the two men. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Ward, she said politely. Please call me Gideon. He smiled, too warm, too knowing. If Damian ever becomes unbearable, my branch of the city is always open. Damian stepped forward, blocking Gideon's line of sight. She won't need it. Gideon chuckled and lifted his champagne flute in a mock toast. We'll see. He melted into the crowd, leaving Aurora confused and Damian visibly irritated. Who was that? She asked softly. A nuisance, Damian muttered. Don't give him attention. Aurora tilted her head. He seems like someone important. He's someone who wants everything I have, Damian said, his voice low. Including what's mine. Aurora swallowed as his words wrapped around her again, possessive, heated, confusing. Before she could respond, another figure appeared, Seraphine Blackwell, Damian's mother, gliding toward them with grace sharp enough to cut glass. She wore a deep emerald gown, eyes assessing the room like a queen surveying her court. You arrived late, Seraphine said, though her tone lacked reprimand. But you look presentable. Aurora looks beautiful, Damian said, before Aurora could speak. Seraphine's eyes flickered with surprise, brief but real. Then she nodded approvingly. The press will like her. Aurora felt Damian's fingers tighten gently against her waist. Seraphine continued, Be prepared. Marcus Hale is here. Aurora's breath caught. He came. He always comes where power gathers, Seraphine said coldly. Do not let him approach you alone. Damian's jaw locked. He won't. They moved further into the ballroom, greeting donors and partners. Aurora kept pace beside Damian, answering questions with polite smiles, doing her best to look confident, even as nerves twisted through her, but all confidence shattered when she saw him. Marcus Hale stood across the room laughing with a cluster of executives. His eyes were bright, his posture relaxed, yet when he spotted Aurora, his smile sharpened. He excused himself and began walking toward them. Damian immediately positioned himself in front of Aurora, a dark wall of protection. Stay behind me. Marcus arrived with a casual, predatory grace. Damian, Aurora, what a surprise. Aurora's voice was barely audible. Marcus. He smiled as if greeting an old friend. I was sad to hear about your father's death, Aurora. Truly tragic what happened to Vale Industries. Damian's voice turned lethal. Watch your tone. Marcus folded his hands innocently. I'm simply expressing sympathy. We all know grief can lead to impulsive decisions, such as marrying a Blackwell. Aurora's fingers trembled at her sides. Damian's words came out like steel. If you speak to her again without my permission, I will make sure you never attend another event in this city. Marcus's smile widened. Touchy tonight, aren't we? Damian commanded. Marcus leaned closer, not to Aurora, but to Damian, his voice a slow poison. Be careful. Some things from the past don't stay buried forever. Damian stiffened. Marcus walked away, leaving a trail of unease behind him. That man destroyed my family, Aurora whispered, shaking. How can he just stand here like nothing happened? Damian cupped her elbow gently. Because he's waiting. He knows something is coming. Aurora looked up at him. What does that mean? It means you cannot trust anyone in this room, not even the ones who smile. He paused. Stay close. Aurora nodded, but her legs felt weak. The confrontation had shaken her more than she wanted Damian to see. Still, she forced her spine straight, lifting her chin as they moved through the crowd again. But inside, her thoughts spiraled. Marcus was not afraid, not even guilty. What was he planning? The question churned in her mind through the rest of the evening. As the gala came to an end, and Damian led her outside toward the waiting car. Aurora couldn't hold it in any longer. "Damian," she said quietly. What did Marcus mean by things not staying buried? Damian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened the car door for her with unusual gentleness. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep controlled. "He's playing a game," Damian said, "and he wants you to panic." "Are you panicking?" she whispered. Damian met her eyes, his own shadowed with something darker than fear. "No," he said, "but I'm preparing." The door closed with a soft thud, and Aurora had a chilling realization Marcus wasn't the only one hiding secrets. Damian had his own, and whatever they were coming for all of them. Aurora woke to the sound of raised voices echoing faintly through the halls of Blackwell Manor. For a moment she thought she was dreaming, but then a door slammed somewhere in the west wing, and the vibration rattled through the floorboards. She sat up, heart pounding. The morning light cut in through her curtains, soft and pale, completely at odds with the tension that hummed in the air. Another voice rose, deep, furious. "Damian!" She threw on a sweater and hurried into the hallway. A few staff members pretended not to hear anything moving briskly, with their heads lowered. But the closer Aurora came to Damian's study, the louder the argument became. "It's not your decision," Damian snarled from inside. "You overstepped." A second voice, a man she didn't recognize, responded sharply. "I acted because you refused to." Aurora froze just outside the door. Lucas appeared at the end of the hall, breathless. "Mrs. Blackwell, please don't go in there." Before she could ask why, the door swung open violently. A tall man stormed out, jaw tight, eyes cold. His black hair was cut short, and he wore a tailored suit that matched Damian's preference, though less refined. He stopped when he saw her. "You must be Aurora." Aurora stiffened. "And you are," he smirked, "his older brother." Damian appeared behind him, fury simmering in every line of his face. "Jonathan, leave." Jonathan leaned in, voice low enough only Damian could hear. "Fix your mess, little brother, before it fixes you." Then he walked away without another glance, disappearing down the stairs. Aurora remained frozen until Damian exhaled a long, controlled breath. "He shouldn't have spoken to you," Damian muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I'll deal with him later." Aurora stepped closer. "Why was he here?" Damian's jaw tightened. "Internal family matters." "You mean Marcus?" Aurora asked gently. Damian didn't respond, which was an answer in itself. "Lucas," Damian called sharply. "Escort Aurora to the breakfast room." Aurora frowned. "I can stay." "You look," Lucas, Damian repeated, ignoring her completely. Lucas swallowed and gestured for Aurora to follow. She hesitated, torn between respecting Damian's boundary and the urge to stay by him, but Lucas's pleading eyes made the decision for her. "Mrs. Blackwell, please." Aurora followed Lucas down the hall. When they entered the breakfast room, the table had already been set, fresh fruit pastries and steaming coffee. Aurora sat down, but her thoughts remained with Damian. Lucas lingered by the door. "He's not angry with you," Lucas said gently. "It's the situation." His brother Aurora guessed. Lucas hesitated. The Blackwell brothers don't agree on much. Jonathan's return means something is wrong. Aurora's stomach sank. "Damian won't tell me." "Not yet," Lucas said. "He will, when he thinks you're ready." Aurora looked down at her untouched plate. "I don't like being protected from the truth." "I know," Lucas said, "but Damian was raised in a world where truth has teeth. He doesn't know how to give it gently." Before she could respond, Damian appeared in the doorway, expression taut but controlled. "Lucas," Damian said, "deliver those files to Seraphine." Lucas bowed slightly. "Yes, sir." When Lucas left, Damian entered the room, closing the door behind him. Aurora sat a little straighter. He crossed to her slowly, as though choosing each word carefully. "Aurora, there's something you need to know." She held her breath. "Marcus has escalated," Damian said softly. "He's attacking the company, quietly through back channels. My brother thinks I'm not responding aggressively enough." "And what do you think?" Aurora asked. Damian leaned against the table, arms crossed. "I think Jonathan is reckless, and I don't want him involved in anything related to you." Aurora's voice was barely above a whisper. Why Damian looked at her, really looked at her. "Because the fewer people tied to you, the safer you are." "Damian," she said softly, "I'm part of this. whether you like it or not. He inhaled slow and deliberate as though steadying himself. You shouldn't have to be, he said. But I am. She pushed her plate aside and stood. And I won't let Marcus tear apart another piece of my life. Something in Damian's expression cracked just slightly, enough for her to see weariness underneath the anger. You're not afraid, he murmured. Of Marcus. Aurora shook her head. No, he already took everything from me. And of me, Damian asked, voice lower. She stepped closer. I don't know what to be with you yet. For a moment, the air shifted alive with something dangerous and warm. Before it could settle, a knock interrupted them. Damian's assistant poked her head in. Mr. Blackwell, the board is waiting. Damian straightened instantly. I'll be there in a minute. The assistant left. Damian turned back to Aurora. There's something else, he said. A fundraiser dinner next week. You'll need to attend. Aurora nodded. Of course. This one is different, Damian said. Your family's case might be questioned publicly, and Marcus could use the opportunity to twist the narrative. Aurora steadied herself. Then tell me what I need to know. Damian exhaled slowly as though admitting a truth he had been resisting. I'll train you. Aurora blinked. Train me to navigate the board, the public, the press, this world. His gaze held hers. My world. The words made her chest tighten in a way she did not expect. She nodded once. Then teach me. Damian held her eyes for a long moment. Tonight, my study. Be there at 8. With that, he left the room, leaving Aurora breathless and uncertain about what exactly she had just stepped into. But one thing was clear. If she was going to survive Damian Blackwell's world, she needed more than courage. She needed to become someone powerful, and she was ready. Aurora arrived at Damian's study at exactly 8 o'clock. Her palms were damp, her heart beat too loud in her ears. She wasn't sure what training meant in the world of Damian Blackwell, but she suspected it wasn't going to be gentle. The door was ajar. She knocked softly. Come in, Damian's voice replied. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. Damian stood near the floor-to-ceiling window, sleeves rolled up, tie discarded again. The city lights painted sharp angles across his face. A large table was set with folders, printed articles, and a laptop with dozens of tabs open. Reports, board member profiles, stock analyses. He looked powerful, intimidating, and impossibly calm. You're on time, he said. Good. Aurora closed the door behind her. You said you'd teach me. I will. He gestured to the seat opposite him. Sit. She sat back straight, trying not to look nervous. Damian opened a folder and slid it toward her. This is the Blackwell board. 12 members, each one with influence, each one capable of undermining me if they believe I've lost control. Aurora skimmed the pages, names, photos, donor history. Why would they undermine you? She asked. Damian took a slow breath. Because of Marcus, and because I married unexpectedly. His gaze sharpened. They think you're a weakness. Aurora felt the words like a slap. A weakness Damian didn't soften. To them, yes. She looked down at the papers, biting the inside of her cheek. Then we proved them wrong. Damian stopped mid-motion, eyes flicking up to her surprise, faint but unmistakable. You're not intimidated. I am. Aurora lifted her chin. But I'm more tired of being helpless. Damian's eyes darkened in a way that made her pulse jump. Good. He took a seat beside her, not across, but close enough that their arms could brush if either of them moved. Lesson 1, he said. Eye contact. When you speak publicly, never look down, never break. Aurora nodded. Lesson 2, Damian continued. Control the narrative before someone else writes it for you. He handed her another file. Marcus's scandals, connections, questionable partnerships. Aurora frowned. How does he hide all this, funny? Damian said. And fear. The same tools he used on your father. Aurora's fingers stilled on the page. My father trusted him. Marcus said he'd save us. Marcus only saves himself, Damian said quietly. The weight of the past pressed against her chest. If I had known, if I had stopped him. Damian reached out gently, lifting her chin with his fingers. None of that was your fault. Aurora's breath hitched. Damian rarely touched her, and when he did, it was always deliberate, never accidental, never soft. Yet tonight, something different lingered in his touch. He released her slowly. Lesson 3. Never apologize for another person's sins. Aurora nodded again, a little unsteady. They worked through documents, public statements, and social strategies. Damian quizzed her, corrected her posture, rehearsed responses she might need. But the more they practiced, the more Aurora became aware of the tension simmering between them, unspoken, steady, growing. At one point, she reached for a pen, and Damian reached for the same one. Their fingers brushed. Aurora startled. Damian didn't. His voice lowered. "You're shaking." She swallowed hard. "It's not fear." Something flickered behind his eyes, heat restraint, a question he didn't dare voice. "Good," he said instead, offering another pen. They worked until nearly 11. By then, Aurora's mind was full and her body was exhausted. Damian closed the last folder. "That's enough for tonight," he said. Aurora stood, stretching her stiff shoulders. "Thank you for this." Damian watched her with an intensity that made her stop. "Aurora." She turned. He stepped closer, not touching, but near enough that she felt his presence like heat. "If anyone tries to use your past against you at the dinner," he said quietly, "you look at me." Aurora's heartbeat sped up. "At you, yes." His voice softened, dangerous in a different way. "Because I'll be the one standing with you. I want them to see that." Her throat tightened. "Damian, why are you doing this?" He exhaled slowly, as if weighing the truth. When he spoke, his voice was low. "Because Marcus is not the only one with something to lose. I am too." Aurora felt her breath stop. Before she could ask what he meant, Lucas burst through the door, panting. "Sir, Mrs. Blackwell, there's a problem." Damian's expression snapped back to sharp control. "What happened?" Lucas swallowed hard. "Marcus requested an emergency interview. Live. He's claiming Vale Industries fell because of your marriage." Aurora's blood ran cold. "What? He's saying," Lucas continued, "that you manipulated Damian, that you seduced him to control Blackwell Corp." Aurora's breath caught like a punch. Damian's eyes went lethal. "He wants war," Damian said. "Fine, I'll give him war." He strode toward the door, but Aurora grabbed his arm. "Wait." He turned, eyes burning. She forced herself to hold his gaze. "This is about me. Let me speak." Damian stepped closer until his breath brushed her cheek. "You don't speak," he said softly, darkly. "Not tonight. Tonight I speak for both of us." His possessiveness should have frightened her. It didn't. It steadied her. Aurora nodded, pulse racing. "Then what do we do?" Damian's lips curved, not quite a smile, but something far more dangerous. "We prepare," he said, "because tomorrow the whole city will learn exactly who they underestimated." He reached for her hand this time without hesitation and led her out of the room. And Aurora realized something terrifyingly certain. Whatever came next, she wasn't just part of Damian's world anymore. She was becoming his equal in it. Aurora woke to an uneasy quiet, the kind that didn't belong in a house as large and busy as Blackwell Manor. The morning light had barely touched the windows yet. The hallways outside her room thrummed with a frantic, hushed energy. She dressed quickly and stepped into the corridor, only to see staff members rushing by with hurried steps and pale faces. "Lucas," she called to the nearest familiar presence. Lucas appeared at the corner, gripping his tablet so tightly his knuckles were white. "Mrs. Blackwell, we need to get you downstairs, now." Aurora's heart kicked. "What happened?" He shook his head. "There's no time. Please." He led her swiftly through the hallways, and the deeper they walked, the clearer the tension became. Phones rang nonstop. Security officers whispered into earpieces. Screens in the living room flashed breaking news banners. Aurora stopped cold as she read the headline. Blackwell, CEO, investigated for funds mismanagement. Suspicious timing after his secret marriage. Her stomach dropped. Damian. Before Lucas could answer, the double doors to the conference room flew open. Damian strode out. He looked like a storm-given form, jaw clenched, sleeves rolled up, tie, discarded eyes burning with a lethal calm. A group of board members trailed behind him, muttering arguments he didn't bother to acknowledge. The moment his gaze found Aurora, everything in him sharpened. "Come here," he said. Aurora's feet carried her before she could think. Lucas quietly slipped away. Damian cupped the side of her arm, guiding her to a quieter part of the hallway. "Are you hurt?" Did anyone speak to you? No, Aurora said. Damian, what's going on, Kane Group? He said bitterly. Marcus leaked falsified financial documents to make it look like I diverted funds from one of our subsidiaries. Aurora's breath hitched. But that's not true. Of course it's not true, Damian said. But the timing is perfect. The market believes anything when delivered at the right moment. She felt heat rise behind her eyes. And the marriage, he exhaled sharply. They're using you to imply emotional instability. Aurora swallowed her hands trembling. What do we do? Damian closed his eyes for a brief moment as if steadying the fury inside him. When he opened them, the intensity was back. We fight. Before she could ask how the security chief rushed toward them. Sir Mrs. Blackwell needs to come with us. There's been movement at the hospital. Aurora's heart froze. Elias, someone tried to transfer him out of the private ward, the chief said. Claimed they had authorization. Damian's hand tightened around Aurora's arm. Who authorized it? Marcus Hale, the chief replied. A chill rippled through Aurora so violently she had to hold the wall. No, she whispered. No, he wouldn't. But he would. She knew it. Damian knew it. Damian turned to Lucas. Get the car. Lucas sprinted away. Damian pulled Aurora against him. Listen to me. We'll get there in 10 minutes. Elias will not be touched. I swear it. Aurora nodded, but her throat was closing. Why, Elias? What does Marcus want with him? Control, Damian said. He's trying to break you and provoke me. Aurora blinked rapidly as fear churned in her chest. He's using my brother as leverage. He's using your pain, Damian said quietly. The same way he used your father's. She felt tears threaten. Damian tilted her face up. Don't break. Not for him. Aurora steadied herself with a shuddering breath. Minutes later, they were speeding toward the hospital in a convoy of black SUVs. Aurora's pulse hammered in her ears, every second stretching into eternity. Damian rested a hand on her thigh. Not possessive, not commanding, just grounding. When they arrived, security had blocked off the entire wing. Aurora ran ahead, despite Damian calling her name. She reached Elias's room and froze. Marcus Hale stood outside the door. What are you doing? Aurora gasped, rushing forward. Marcus's smile was so cold. Relax. I'm simply ensuring your brother receives the best care. Damian stepped between them instantly, his presence like a blade slicing the air. You have 3 seconds to leave. Marcus raised a brow. You'll hit me in a hospital, cameras are everywhere. I don't need to hit you, Damian said. I only need to speak one word to ruin you. Marcus's expression twitched, but he didn't back away. This little marriage of yours is quite a show, Marcus said, circling them like a shark. But does she know, does Aurora know how involved you were in her father's case? Aurora's breath stilled. Damian stiffened. Marcus leaned close to her. Did he ever mention that your father came to him for help? Stop, Damian growled. That he turned him away. Marcus continued. That he could have stopped everything if he intervened sooner. Aurora's chest caved in. Damian stepped in front of her, almost shielding her completely. Leave her out of this. She deserves the truth, Marcus hissed. Damian surged forward, but Aurora grabbed his arm. Don't, she whispered, voice trembling. Damian froze at the sound of her plea. Marcus smirked, satisfied. You can't protect her from everything, Damian. Eventually, the truth will crawl out. He walked away, leaving them trembling in the sterile hallway. Aurora turned to Damian, searching his face. Is he lying? Damian's throat worked. Aurora, is he? He closed his eyes for a long moment. Aurora, he said softly, painfully. Your father came to me after the documents were already signed. I tried to undo the damage, but I was too late. Her breath trembled. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were drowning, Damian said. I didn't want to be another weight pulling you under. Something in her cracked, but not in anger, in understanding. She stepped closer. You didn't hurt my family. Marcus did. Damian opened his eyes, relief and anguish mingling. You believe me. Aurora touched his wrist gently. I believe you. The tension in Damian's body broke like a wave. He lowered his forehead to hers, exhaling of a breath that trembled against her lips. Aurora, he whispered, as if her name was the last thing keeping him upright. She leaned into him, letting the chaos fade around them. When security confirmed Elias was safe, Damian pulled Aurora into his arms and held her not for protection, but because he needed it, because for the first time he wasn't the storm. She was, and she was standing beside him. Aurora spent the rest of the night sitting beside Elias's hospital bed, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest. The room was dim quiet, wrapped in that sterile stillness only hospitals carry. But deep inside her, something was shifting, an unfamiliar resolve taking shape. Damian had stayed outside the room, pacing like a caged storm. Every so often she felt his presence through the glass, a silhouette carved in tension. When dawn finally crept through the blinds, he stepped inside, exhaustion etched into his face. "You didn't sleep," he said. "You didn't either," Aurora replied softly. Damian didn't deny it. Instead, he took the chair beside her elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "I've arranged for a private team to guard this wing. No one gets in unless I approve it." Aurora exhaled slowly. "Thank you." Damian looked at her, then really looked. Not like she was fragile, not like she was breaking, but like she was something he didn't know how to protect without hurting himself in the process. "Aurora," he said, "I never wanted you involved in this. Marcus is dangerous." She met his gaze steady. "I'm already involved." He made sure of that. Damian's jaw tightened. "You shouldn't have to fight this war." She rested her hand lightly over his. "Then don't fight it alone." His fingers curled under hers almost involuntarily. The contact held for a full second too before he forced himself to stand. "We're leaving," he said quietly. "We have work to do." Aurora nodded, stood and gave Elias's hand a final squeeze before following Damian out. They returned to the manor to find it brimming with tension, security stationed at doors, staff whispering, Lucas running between rooms with files and earpieces. Lucas spotted them and hurried over. "Sir Mrs. Blackwell, something happened." Damian's expression sharpened. "What now?" Lucas handed him a tablet. "You need to see this." Aurora leaned in, heart-dropping, as she saw the headline, "Marcus Hale claims to release the real truth about Helios press conference today at noon." Aurora's chest tightened. "He's going to twist everything." "That's what he does," Damian murmured darkly. "He'll use my family again," Aurora whispered. Damian turned to her. "Not if we move first." Without another word, he led her to his private office, the one only he and Lucas ever entered. The room buzzed with tension, documents spread everywhere, financial records pinned to boards. Damian stood at the center of it all, like a commander preparing for battle. "Aurora," he said, "I need to know everything Marcus did to your family. Every email, every meeting, every lie." Aurora steadied her breath. "I can try, but I don't remember everything." "Then we'll find it," Damian said, pointing to the computer. "Lucas gave you access to Blackwell's archives for a reason. You're smart. You see patterns I miss." Aurora froze. "You? Trust me with this. I trust you more than my own board," Damian said simply. Her chest tightened at the unexpected confession. For the next hour, Aurora combed through her old emails, her father's files, archived financial documents. Damian paced occasionally, stopping to read something she uncovered. "Wait," Aurora said, suddenly, pulse spiking. "Look at this." She pulled up a hidden chain of emails messages between Marcus and an unknown contact at Kane Group. In them, Marcus discussed manipulating Helios's project timeline, forging signatures, destroying Vale Industries. Damian leaned over her shoulder, eyes narrowing. "This is it. This proves everything." "There's more," Aurora whispered, scrolling. Her breath caught. The final message. "Once Vale collapses, Blackwell will be exposed. Damian will lose everything. Then we strike." Damian inhaled through clenched teeth. "He wasn't just aiming at your family. He wanted me too." Aurora turned to him, voice trembling with fury. "He used my father. He used me, just to get to you." Damian met her gaze, something raw flickering behind his eyes. "And now he's using your name to manipulate the public." Aurora stared at the screen, at the proof that Marcus's cruelty was calculated, deliberate. No more running. No more silence. "I want to confront him," she said quietly. Damian's head snapped toward her. "Absolutely not. I'm not a liability," she said, voice firming. "I'm not going to hide while he destroys everything." Damian stepped closer, face inches from hers, pain and protectiveness warping through his expression. "I almost lost you in that accident," he said. You think I'm going to let Marcus near you again? Aurora held his gaze. Then don't let me near him. Stand with me. Damian froze, breath catching. Their closeness hummed with something neither dared name. A sharp knock broke the moment. Lucas rushed in pale. Sir, we have a bigger problem. Damian turned sharply. What is it? Lucas handed him a USB drive. This was delivered anonymously. It's a video. Damian plugged it into the screen. Aurora's breath stilled. The video showed the hospital hallway, Marcus arguing with staff trying to force access to Elias's room. His voice was louder, crueler. And then Aurora appeared in frame, panic-stricken. Marcus smirked directly at the camera. You think marrying a Blackwell will save you? No one can save you. Not him, not anyone. The footage cut out. Damian's fist slammed against the desk. He filmed it. He wanted to use it. Aurora whispered. He wanted people to think Damian can't even protect his own wife. Lucas swallowed. He's using her as the breaking point. Damian turned to Aurora, eyes blazing. From now on, you stay with me. Everywhere. What she breathed. No hiding, Damian said. No separation. If he wants to attack us, he'll see we stand together. Aurora felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear, but from the certainty in his voice. Damian, she whispered. He stepped closer, lowering his forehead to hers. I won't let him hurt you. I swear it. Her breath trembled and she closed her eyes. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of him. She was afraid of how deeply she was beginning to trust him, and of how far she would go to protect him too. Aurora stood beside Damian as the elevator doors glided open into the press conference hall. The room buzzed with reporters, camera crews, live broadcast equipment, an entire city ready to watch their downfall or their rise. Damian's hand brushed hers briefly, a silent signal, a promise that she wasn't walking into this alone. You stay with me, he murmured. I'm not leaving, she whispered back. Flashbulbs exploded the moment they stepped out. Reporters surged forward shouting their names. Lucas and security formed a barrier guiding Damian and Aurora to the front stage where two podiums waited beneath harsh white lights. Marcus Hale was already there, smiling. He stood before a crowd of microphones, posture smug confidence radiating from every inch of him. He ended his speech with false sympathy dripping from his voice. And I hope Damian Blackwell finds the courage to admit the truth. Or perhaps his wife will do it for him. His eyes slid to Aurora with serpentine satisfaction. Damian stepped between them before Aurora could react. That's enough, Damian said coldly. You've used this family for the last time. Marcus smirked. Families fall apart, companies collapse. It's the natural order when a man like Damian pretends he can protect what he cannot. The crowd erupted with murmurs. Cameras zoomed in. Damian moved toward his podium, jaw set, every movement radiating authority. 3 years ago, Vale Industries collapsed because of forged documents. That ruin was not an accident. It was a planned attack. Gasps rippled through the room. Marcus's smile faltered. Damian continued, voice steady as you're deadly. You accuse me of corruption, then let's show them corruption. He nodded to Lucas. Lucas played the videos. Aurora found the fake contracts, the forged signatures, the email thread revealing Marcus's entire scheme from the start. And then finally, the footage of Marcus at the hospital threatening Aurora and Elias. The room went dead silent. Reporters stared in shock. Marcus's face turned the color of ash. Damian stepped closer to the microphones. This is the man accusing me of fraud. This is the man who destroyed an innocent family, tried to manipulate my wife, and nearly harmed her brother. A wave of whispers swept across the hall. Aurora felt her pulse racing, but not from fear. From pride. Damian continued, voice low and devastating. I will not apologize for marrying the woman I love. I will not apologize for protecting her. I will not apologize for standing with her against a coward who hides behind lies and cameras. Love. He said it in front of everyone. Aurora's breath caught her chest, tightening painfully. Then a reporter shouted, Mrs. Blackwell, do you believe Damian played a role in your family's downfall? Aurora stepped forward, heart thundering. I believe the truth, she said clearly. My father trusted the wrong man, and now that wrong man stands exposed before all of you. Flashbulbs erupted like fireworks. Another reporter shouted, Then why stay with Damian? Why marry him? Why defend him? Aurora felt Damian's presence behind her, steady and warm, but she didn't lean on him. She didn't need to. I stand with Damian, she said, voice unwavering, because when the world turned its back on me, he didn't, because he fought for my brother when no one else would, because he chose to protect me when he didn't have to, and because her voice softened, I choose him too. Damian inhaled sharply. The crowd reacted instantly, some in awe, some in shock, but all listening. Suddenly, a group of security officers entered, escorting Marcus Hale away, as authorities announced an immediate investigation into financial sabotage, corporate spying, and medical interference. Marcus struggled, shouting, "This isn't over," Damian answered, without looking at him. "Yes, Marcus, it is." When the conference finally ended and the reporters dispersed in a whirlwind of breaking news urgency, Damian turned to Aurora. His expression was unreadable. Something raw, relieved, shaken. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Yes," Aurora replied, stepping closer. "I did." Damian reached for her hand, not commanding, not demanding, but asking. "Aurora," he whispered, "come with me." He led her to the rooftop terrace of the building. The wind swept through her hair, the city stretching beneath them like a sea of lights. Damian faced her, the storm inside him finally breaking open. "You didn't just protect me today," he said. "You saved me." Aurora touched his cheek gently. "You saved me first." Damian's breath trembled. He pulled a velvet box from his pocket, one he had been carrying for weeks without admitting why. "No contracts, no conditions," he said softly. "Aurora Vale, will you marry me again? For real this time?" Her eyes filled with tears, not from pain, but from finally feeling seen. "Yes," she breathed. Damian cupped her face, kissed her slow, warm, surrendering. The world softened around them. The storms, the lies, the battles, they all fell away. It was just them, two broken people choosing each other anyway. When they finally pulled apart, Aurora pressed her forehead to his. "We'll face the rest together, whatever comes." "Together," Damian echoed. Hand in hand, they walked back inside. No longer a contract, no longer a shield, but something real, fragile, fierce. Something worth fighting for. And maybe finally something enough. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Comment your favorite moment between Aurora and Damian, or what you hope their future looks like. Your likes and subscriptions help this channel grow, and I'd be so happy to share more millionaire love stories with you. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one.